My name is Chris Riley, and my topic for today is tax breaks for religious institutions. My claim is that giving tax breaks to religious organizations is unconstitutional and hurts the economy. First, I'm going to give some background information and then tell you why it is unconstitutional. Then give you information on how churches could still receive tax breaks and as charitable organizations. And then I will tell you how they could support their economy by paying taxes, and they're hurting their economy by not paying taxes. So, religious institutions in the United States receive extensive tax breaks from the government and pay no taxes at all because of this. And the tax laws are a really complicated thing for a normal person to understand, especially us college students. And decoding them is a difficult task, even for tax professionals and accountants. But this law is clearly in need of change, and even to the eye of someone who isn't a tax professional or an accountant, it is government support of religion that is fundamentally against our Constitution. And my first claim is giving tax breaks to churches and other religious institutions by the government is unconstitutional. The First Amendment says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof. And mixing church and state is something that the Founding Fathers were strongly against and have spoken out against in the Constitution. President John Adams said, nothing is more dreaded than the national government meddling with religion. And giving religious institutions government tax breaks violates this idea and is unconstitutional. Now, tax breaks are given to charities, and some of which are churches, but it can't be assumed that all churches are automatically charitable organizations and that all they do is charity. And a charity that happens to be a church would still be granted tax exemption, even regardless of their religious affiliation, because there's reasoning beyond religion that's driving the government to give them the tax break that they're getting for their charity. And if a church was treated like a normal citizen tax-wise, then they could receive breaks and returns for their documented charitable works as if they were anyone else or any other organization, and would pay taxes for their normal business, or whatever it could be called, as any normal individual or business would. And so the religious organization would pay their taxes, and in doing so would help the communities that give them so much, and they could write off any charitable things that they did, which they're accustomed naturally to do. And if religious organizations pay taxes, they would support their surrounding economies. And in the current economic climate, all kinds of ideas are being proposed to cut down on the cost and bring in more income, including rises in taxes for the normal American. But churches are a huge entity in the United States, and if they all started paying taxes, it would generate a large amount of money for our communities. And it is estimated that the total church income just from donations alone is $60 billion a year. And it's not really enough to do much on a national level as far as pulling us out of any kind of debt, but it would greatly help communities, cities, and even states at that level. And in a matter of ethics, it seems as if the church would want to pay back the taxes, to give back to their community and to give back to their surrounding areas, because they are dependent completely on the donations and attendance of the members of their community and neighborhoods, which tax dollars would help to improve and keep nice and keep people coming to their church. And in conclusion, I believe that it is unconstitutional and economically irresponsible for the United States government to give tax breaks to religious institutions. So, thank you.
All right, the proposition has multiple parts to it. You want a singular claim. The secondary points are labeled. That's basically because it's the same thing as the proposition. You signpost those points as you get to them. That's pretty clear. Your first argument on the constitutional issue, you've got no scholarly information on this, no reference to court rulings. The only thing that you have is the quote from John Adams, which talks about the government establishing a religion as opposed to the government regulating a religion or prohibiting a religion. Court cases on this issue probably are going to be easy to find, because that's one of the, the power to tax is the power to regulate and control, and that's why the First Amendment exists in the first place. So it doesn't exist to just to keep the government from creating a religious institution, but also to keep government from prohibiting religious institutions or regulating them. For instance, we should tax the Catholics more because they got more money. We should tax the Mormons less because they spend more of their money in the community. That's one of the things that's a little bit problematic. If you want to make a constitutional argument about this, then you should have consulted some legal authorities on those issues, and I didn't hear a source citation except for the John Adams reference. On the argument about the potential economic benefits, there was one reference to the amount of money that churches bring in, but of course if they lost their tax-exempt status, there's not really a discussion about how much money they would continue to bring in, since part of the reason that they bring in the money is that it's a charitable deduction for people to make in the first place. So there is some question about that. The impact of economic spending by churches is not really quantified in contrast to whatever the potential tax benefits are. You seem to kind of dismiss it anyway and say, well, maybe cities and localities could use that money. Why it's better to tax a church than maybe increase trash fees or taxing additional dogs, or let's raise the tax rates on cigarettes, alcohol, and loud parties. I'm all for that, by the way. I'm not quite sure, except that there's a value implication here that you have, and that's, I think, the essence of the argument. It comes down to that value issue that you get to in the third point, and that's not really appropriate for this particular assignment. But you did a pretty good job talking to the audience, but you need a little bit more authoritative information on the constitutional issues. All right, thank you.